I hosted a tournament for Backpack Battles. It consisted of 10 challenges, and whoever performs the best in a challenge wins some cash. This ended up being a really wild ride. We broke some massive records. It was absolutely insane, so I hope you enjoy this. But the first category that we're gonna talk about is Too Toxic. So Too Toxic was the category where people had to get as much poison as possible, right? The highest poison number wins. That was the only thing. And people started, I'll show a picture. People started like I expected, which is just normal poison comps like this, like triple death side, quadruple death side, poison flasks, right? Which is essentially how poison reapers already play. So that way you can get like up to 200 poison. So this was one of the first submissions. But very quickly things got kind of out of hand because my record is at 220 something. It's like a video as well. But I think within a day, we got this submission. Well, we see quad death side again. Positioning is really interesting. You could do this in many different ways. Only 4 poison flasks. You couldn't fit the armor, but they're playing with the dolls. So normally you don't play this, but if you play Mr. Struggles, the self-inflicted poison also inflicts back. So these flasks inflict poison on yourself, you also inflict that back. So it's kind of like a cheesy way to get more poison. 4 lives is crazy, yeah. It's like the limit that I usually go for as well. But hold up, things are obviously gonna get crazier, right? Because people need to one-up each other. That's the most interesting part. People need to do better than the last one. Yeah. So here they have 5 death sides. So I was maybe a little too early in the video. But this is 5 death sides. If you look at this, they inflicted 123 at the start. Second tick still has to come, of course, which put them at 215. Oh yeah, 6 death sides. I forgot. This goes even crazier. So first submission or video submission was with 6 death sides. Only 5 poison flasks. Again, the doll to self-inflict poison. Like bounce it back. And they were facing some like dark saber boards. I mean, this is unrated, so people are just kind of doing whatever. So it's 131 at the start. And then second tick is going up to... It goes up to 236. I think this was 240. It got up to 240. This was the first record. And this seemed already really hard to beat, right? 6 death sides. Great potion setup. Like, it doesn't really get much better than this. The only way you can maybe improve this is if you have, like, more potions on the side here. Or maybe find a reposition. But this is not where it ends. This was only one of the early submissions. Because then Upson came in. And he did something I haven't seen before. He positioned like this. Like a staircase. And obviously, look at all the pigs. I think very quickly people realized that in order to beat all these high roll boards, you need a lot of money. So this starts was like a lot of pig farming, just a lot of money, right? So you can scale up towards the end, find as many flasks, roll a lot. This is 4 death sides with a staircase of potions. So this position apparently is a lot better. It all triggered. Also, they have a lot of stone skin potions, right? Which also double triggers all of them. So we got 176 poison inflicted here. And then second trigger happens. And it was 329. 329. Opponent had struggles. Yeah, so they inflicted a bunch of poison back as well, which is kind of funny. And they have a poison goober to cleanse as well. So these numbers could still be higher if you face better opponents, right? Like, but this was the limit. This was what won the category. 329 poison. I think that's the highest I've ever seen. You could probably still maybe push it out to be a little more if you get luckier opponents, or I don't know how much better the setup can get, honestly. But yeah, that was the first category done. And then the second one, this was actually the category I was looking most forward to, and that was One Punch Man. Whoever deals the biggest amount of damage in one hit, right? Because there's a lot of ways you can approach this, and this was also a very active category. Like, a lot of people were actively like competing with each other and like talk about strategy, and through the entire week people were improving this. It started with kind of what I expected as well, and that's insta-lamping. So what I've been playing as well, which is Critwood Staff with a bunch of lamps and a potion setup to trigger it. And then with Corrupted Crystal, obviously an easy way to boost damage if you put Corrupted Crystal on weapon. If they're low, your damage scales like crazy. So they got like a 282 crit with Critwood Staff. It's a build that is kind of viable, not incredibly hard to pop off or to pull off. But yeah, that was just the beginning. So then we went into the first video submission or second submission, and this was Greatsword. So people figured, hey, big number, big damage, let's play Greatsword. And this one did a total of, I'll show you, big numbers, 306 damage. So again, because of the Cryptic Crystals, people are just stacking that. 306 damage, because once they're low, your damage scales out of control. That seems like the easiest, most consistent way to deal a lot of damage, but obviously they can cap out, right? So this was the first 300 plus damage hit submission. This was by Franny. Oh, no. The first one was by Franny. This was by Zuba. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Zuba. So Odic Red Sum also went with the greatsword approach. I think most people did because it's like the easiest way to do it. They have 4 cryptic crystals. So 1 more than the last person did. So all you need to do is make sure that they drop low. Then need to hit a big crits. And then big number. But obviously, you know, that's improvable. So this was 361. This was a new number. Shown in the damage logs. How do you improve that? Well, there's actually there's like 6 more improvements here. Next submission was 461 by Maltesa. I'll just show the picture, but this was the first 400 plus hit, again with greatsword cryptic crystals, but I'm not 100% sure they did it. Maybe just stacked, oh, they stacked 20 empower as well, so the empower obviously adding damage. There's Effe, I don't know how to pronounce that name, but they had a 228 hit without crit. So if this crits, this would be the new record. Would be over 400 as well. Actually, was it the new record? I mean, it was with the bonus damage from arrow, right? So this would have been a new record. But, well, we went to 200 damage, 300 damage, 400 damage. Obviously, we got to reach 500 damage. And this was the next submission by... Was this Odic? No, this was Effe. This was the guy from the last screenshot. So Effe, again, playing greatsword, quadruple crystal, which is what's beating all the records right now. But they lamped. So the only way to now scale more damage is to add more damage onto greatsword. So people are starting to lamp the greatsword as well. To boost the damage numbers. And we got a 576 damage hit. So 500 barrier broken, close to 600 barrier. Obviously, what we gotta do is just find more lamps, right? And just lamp more. So that's what people were up to. Next up was even more lamps. This was Odic Red Sum. The first 600 damage barrier broken. So we got to the 600 damage hits. They only had triple crystal, so it could be a lot more of the, damage still. But they had a way better potion setup, so they just like lamped way more. 609. So that was a new record, 609. And yeah, the category doesn't end here. Because then Effe, who was the first one to hit the 500 barrier, came back. And he submitted his own 600 plus run. It was close though, it was a slight improvement. But it was also just with a way better potion setup. Also 3 crystals, still no 4. But lamping multiple times. Getting him up to 600 something. 630 damage. So 630 damage was now leading. There's 2 more improvements. This is like, I know, a very big category, but people are actually fighting for this and trying to do better and better. Odic Red Sum, again, these people are going back and forth. Fired back with a 700 plus, so another barrier broken. We're now in the 700s. They had the 4 crystals with the amazing lamp setup and the potion setup. So someone finally hit the 4 crystals. But yeah, the hardest part is getting them low enough without killing them and not dying yourself, and then it all triggering. So yeah, this was 761. And then there's one more submission. Those of you who don't know, who weren't like watching the submissions, what do you think the final one is? How much damage it was? We went from like 200 to 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. Well, it was way over 1,000, which I didn't think we would actually see. I didn't even know it was possible. But it was Quardek, quadruple crystal, insane lamp setup. This is 7 lamps, by the way. Also potion setup. But the way they did it is probably with the birds speeding up all of the lamps, gaining so many like resources to keep lamping. They also had a flutes for armor gain, I suppose, and luck gain. They had like mana orbs for mana. They just had everything that you need to lamp, essentially. Pretty much a perfect setup. So yeah, it's over 1,000. How much exactly? Well, we'll see in a second. Because they didn't crit here, so they were lucky to not crit here, so they didn't kill their opponents. But all the crystals are active. Oh no, it was not this fight. It was a fight before this then, I guess. It's not this one. Oh, it is this one. I'm stupid. The number was so big that it didn't get on the screen. Right. So it looked like this was just 126 for me at least. But the number was actually so big that it cut off on the screen. But yeah, if you look at the logs, it's 1,269. So yeah, that was a record. Quardek won that. I think that's like one of the most perfect setups you can have, right? Maybe it can be improved still, but who knows, right? Maybe the fight goes longer with a different opponent. That was the second category. Then we had the speedrun. This is who can get the shortest combat. So whoever gets the shortest fight. And I kind of had an idea of what people would do. So the first submission came pretty fast, and it was Amutek. with a 1.7 second round. And it's exactly what I expected. It is one of the early rounds, actually the first round in this case, where you just try and just get lucky. So he bought a hammer, bought whetstone. He just want to go full damage round 1 and try and one-shot someone. So he gloves, he whetstones hammer, but it was optimized very quickly. So the issue with this category is it's really interesting, but people broke it very quickly, which I didn't even think was possible. But yeah, round 1, I'll just, you know, that's what happened. Hammer just hits once, it crits, and with the whetstone, it's just enough to kill them because they also had the hero sword damage. So yeah, they just died instantly. This was the first submission, 1.7 seconds. And I think it was hilarious. So that's what I thought people would be doing, like optimizing the early rounds for as fast as possible. Because I think if you go for the end game builds, like it's really hard to get something under 2 seconds, right? It's maybe possible if you have something giga strong, but I thought it would be all early game. But then people started theory crafting a 0-second kill, a 0-second spawn kill, which I think was ridiculous. I didn't know if it was actually possible, but yeah. This is the setup for it. It's like moon shields with potions. The item just got added, so people were experimenting with it. A bunch of vamp, and then just a bunch of mana first. So the issue, or the idea is, you instantly get a bunch of armor, million armor, to get a bunch of mana with moon shields, so a mana bomb. And then all the mana with mana first, the interaction is mana first steals life. So you gain a bunch of mana, steal life from your opponents, put them at 0 HP. That was the goal, but people were getting close, but they weren't able to pull it off yet. And this was just a matter of time, right? A lot of people were trying this. It was about who was able to pull it off first. And then we also got an improvement though. So meanwhile, while that was happening, we got Soskiosk with... No, that was Soskiosk last... Yeah, this is Soskiosk. This is the same person who had the setup, wasn't able to one-shot people, but it got really close. Like they're facing a Critterwood Saber build here, which is kind of good. But you'll see what happens. So instantly, you get a bunch of armor, bunch of mana. And they drop to like 1 HP, like 12 HP and 20 armor. So they almost one-shot this person. They just quite didn't get there. But then they killed him right after. So it was still a super fast fight. It was still winning right now at 1.33 seconds. So you had a 1.33 second kill. This was leading, and then obviously it had to happen eventually. We had Soskiosk again. He was just improving himself this entire time, pulling it off. The 0-second kill. Just behold, I'm gonna hide the camera because, well, it's over so fast, right? Fight starts, and they're just dead. Like it's just nothing happens. And as you can see, it's just a 0-second kill. They died at 0 seconds. So kind of broken. I didn't think this was possible 0-second kills, but hey, the category was then fully optimized and dead. I think Soskios, the same person, pulled this off in ranked in a diamond game and won. So that's kind of impressive. On to the next category, which is the marathon, which is the opposite. Longest fight, right? Who can get the longest running combat? This again was a very active category with a lot of submissions where people were trying to one-up each other. A lot of funny things happened as well. It got really out of hand to the point where people were taking damage, fatigue damage, over 200 damage every second. 200 plus fatigue ticks, which sounds ridiculous, sounds impossible, but it was happening. Because people were facing mirror builds. Like people were facing each other trying to go for this specific category. So they both had the insane ideas, and the fights just went crazy. So people started, of course, with like 40-second runs, right? I think 40-second runs, they're difficult, but those were like at first the limit. But people were too weak, and people were also switching to like ranked games because and unrated people died too fast. They had to come up with different strategies. But eventually we got a submission by Cuss. Cuss submitted this, which is just a strat that I tried and pull off with fatigue as well recently, but it's moon shields or shields of valor with a bunch of vamp armor. So you gain armor like crazy, right? As long as they don't go through your armor, you are just chilling. You are just waiting for them to die. And he got lucky that he faced an opponent going for the same challenge with the same setup, same kind of build. But they did like a bunch of mana stuff with it as well. So this was just waiting until someone eventually dies to fatigue. They're both gaining a million armor. Look at the fatigue. It goes to fatigue 100. So we got up to 100 fatigue already. And this fight ended up going 48 seconds. So the first submission that was like crazy, it was 48 seconds. So yeah, 48 seconds. That's already seemed ridiculous. They got lucky with the opponent, with the matchup. How much crazier can this get? Well, this was the first real video submission, and there's a lot more to go. So next up, we had a tie actually. We had Minetic, who also had a 48-second run, but they pulled it off because they faced Amutek, who was also going for this category, and that led to really long fights. I think you can't really beat this record without facing someone who is trying to do something similar. So that's how we got to a lot of these crazy records. I think Unrated was just like a crazy shit show to play in this week. I didn't play Unrated myself, but I'm pretty sure we just faced a bunch of these builds. But yeah, they also did Vamp Armor with like birds and stuff. And Light Goo Birds you saw a lot because it heals and it like blinds people in case they want to damage you. And we saw Amutak here going for something different. They're doing like Light Goo with crowns and gems. They didn't have the armor package. They went for a different approach. Yeah, they're over 1,000 armor here. Because they're not taking any damage from this. This is not dealing damage. So 1,500 armor we can see here. It's still climbing up. Fatigue is only at 26. Now I'm going to speed up a little bit. We again go to over 100 fatigue damage, just like last time, which is ridiculous. Which this bolt couldn't keep up with. The other bolt had still a lot of armor left. But yeah, 48 seconds again. A tie between two people in the category. Next up, we have Zui24K. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Who went for 49 seconds. So it improved it by 1 second. But also the same strat. It's still just Vamp Armor with birds and Moon Shields. And they have some gems here in Coffin as well. And again, they're not facing another fatigue build though, actually. I think they did, yeah. They got a record against this, which is not even... I don't know if they're competing for the same category. That's kind of impressive. They went over 100 fatigue as well. Yeah, 49.1 second. So we're getting close to the 50-second barrier. Yeah, how big is the limit, right? Because once you start taking over 100 damage of fatigue, you die in 2 seconds or 2 ticks. You need like so much regen on both sides, because if your opponent dies, it also ends. So then we had Upson, who was going to break this 55-second barrier with a new strategy. Instead of Vamp Armor and shields, it is now crystals. People are now going in the mines and getting a bunch of yellow topaz because it gives heat. So with this abomination of a board, double bird as well, Goobers for healing, we see the new record against someone who just went triple moon shield, double vamp armor. So they stacked armor instead, which is good because they're not dealing any damage, right? So they can live very long in fatigue. So this board can live very long in fatigue. Your board can live very long in fatigue. And eventually I'll speed it up again because, well, long fights, of course. We are hitting 100 fatigue damage here, 114, 126, 139. It's insane. And they still have 3,000 armor, 3,600 armor here. But on this end, you're not using armor. They have 230 regen. So they just out-heal the fatigue damage. And they have almost 500 heat. So this could even apply to one of the other categories as well. Yeah, we're now in the 200s of fatigue damage. It finally ended. Because, well, obviously, the regen couldn't keep up with this. This fight was 55 seconds. Almost a minute-long fight, which is kind of ridiculous. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. And the category is still going. There is still one more submission, which won this, and that is by Den Super. So this was still being improved. And it was with a mix of both. It was triple Vamp Armor, triple Moon Shield, double Bird to speed it all up, and a bunch of gems, a bunch of topaz. So not as much as the last person or the last submission had, but also you need to get a little bit lucky with opponents still. They are facing another gem build. I don't know if this was also supposed to be a submission, but they have crowns, a bunch of gems, a bunch of birds. This fight again, going pretty deep in fatigue. We're in the 200s of damage. The armor, look at this, man. 6,500 armor still. Keeps going. Their opponent was not gaining armor, so they do eventually die as well. I feel like this could still be improved. Like, if this build faces its own build, it could still go longer. So maybe this category could have been improved. But again, you gotta get lucky on matchups. It's you know, not likely that you face someone who's as strong as you are. We ended up with a record of 56 seconds. Nobody got over a minute. I don't think it's been done before. Maybe in the near future, if people get crazy enough, they might try it again. But 56 is the record so far. Yeah, it's really funny how large the shields is. I also want to show a screenshot. This is a screenshot by Den Super as well, who, let's say, had a lot of armor. He had 17,000 armor. It took up half the screen. You couldn't even see what the hell was going on. It was also a 54-second round. Anyway, that was the marathon category. Next up is Frankenstein. the one that, well, it's more subjective, so nobody knows who won yet. But basically, Frankenstein, people have to just come up with the most creative and crazy idea. That wins the game. It can't just lose on the spot. The first submission that we got was Felix, who pretty quickly just got like a pig farm. It's like 12 pigs. He's getting so much money. All he does is farm money. He, yeah. I don't even know how you can get this many pigs, but that was the first submission. We had Minetic, who, well, he had a screenshot. This is called the Dragon Nation Army. And the theme, I think you guys can guess the theme, right? It's a color. It might be red. So it's just a bunch of red stuff in one backpack slapped together. Kind of impressive, honestly, how you get all of this. That's 2 more eggs. That's, how many dragons is that? That's 7 dragons. 2 blood goobs. 2 more, dude, that's 5 blood amulets that you have to find as well. The only thing I don't like though is that there's blue here, blue and purple. But other than that, that was not a submission. Then we had this one by Tim, the Uno reverse build. And this one I thought was really funny because people in our rated were going for the poison record, right? So one of the categories was the poison record, who can inflict the most poison, which we just talked about. And this dude wanted to counter them by playing quadruple platinum card, because platinum card reflects debuffs back. So whenever people inflicted poison on him, these customer cards would deflect all the poison back onto them, which I thought was hilarious. Like if you look at the next fights, he is facing a poison build, and you can see him being happy about it. So he's facing poison here. You can see him being excited, and he's pointing out that he's not going to take any poison damage, and his opponent will. His opponent took 25, he took 0 because platinum customer card. So this is literally the Uno reverse build, which I thought was pretty clever, pretty funny. Then we had Khaled, who went for something similar, but he had 5 customer cards. 6 platinum customer cards. He had 6 platinum customer cards, and he decided to play the 4 worst unique items in the game. So this is a quadruple unique. It's Pumpkin, Gingerbread Jerry, Stone of Cold, and Stone Heat. All terrible. Which I think was also hilarious. So that was another submission for Frankenstein. Then we had Just Proust with, so very interesting as well, it's a lamp build, but it uses deck of cards. He played lamp with Falcon. We also played lamp with Spear, which is what we see here. So he pulled it off in 2 different ways, and it's like deck of cards to get it. So he uses Ace of Spades for luck gain and spike gain, Lotus for mana gain, and Blue Eyes Red Dragon for armor. Pretty slow, but he was able to pull it off and win games with it. It triggers very late though, because you gotta turn all the cards around, so you gotta live long enough. But eventually it triggered, and then he did big damage, which was pretty funny. And also, I think the spear also triggered. So he lamped the spear, and the spear went at 100% speed. Kind of funny. Then we have 2 more submissions. One was by Amutek, and it was someone who likes to play the flute. 5 flutes. 4 crowns, bunch of gems, looks wild as hell, was not very good. I didn't really win a lot. So this was the flute build. And then we had 1 more submission, which I think was genius. This was Lemurkin with a permastun build. Again, a bunch of gems. People love playing gems, but this was interesting because it's gems which give you both stamina and heat. And then he has a hammer and triple bird. And 4 lucky pigs, so it is 100% crit chance. Every hit is a crit. So what happens is, well, I'm going to speed up the fight a bit. All the gems start triggering. You get full stamina the entire time, so hammer keeps on hitting. And the heat starts stacking. And heat stacks on itself because gems, you know, the way that works. So eventually, I'm going to hide my camera. They're going to be perma-stunned, and they won't be able to do anything. You can see the hammer just bonking away. It's like they're in eternal limbo, essentially. They're getting up to 60 heats. But I think this was pretty funny, pretty clever. And also the hammer deals like so little damage, so they're not dying. But you can see their backpack not doing anything. Like sometimes it still triggers, but most of the time, yeah, they were just dead, essentially. And I got up to almost 100 heats. Went to fatigue. But I thought this was a funny idea. And the build that I decided to win was, it was really close. I really liked the Uno reverse, but we saw multiple people working with like a platinum customer card. Eventually I did go for Lemurkin with the perma-stun, because I think it was actually pretty clever. I have not seen that before. Like the gem stacking with the hammer, kind of funny. Also not too easy to pull off, I think. But all of them are pretty good. I liked all of them. This was I don't know, not too easy to decide. But next up, we have getting those gains, which is who gets the most total buffs applied to themselves in one fight. And this category is sort of strong, pretty fast as well, with Lemurkin, who, again, just abuse gems. It seems like gems are pretty, like, popular in this tournament because they can do some crazy shit. Because they also stack buffs like crazy. You don't deal any damage, your only goal is to live long enough, get deep enough in fatigue that you can stack heat, because heat scales on itself. It scales kind of exponentially. And you can stack other things with it as well. So you can see things ramping up here in the bottom left. The heat keeps stacking, gems keep going faster, you get more heat, you get regen here. From the poison, I think. One issue though was that when the heats got so big, you cannot see how much luck you get. So you had to go back in the logs and see how much luck you actually gained. But yeah, so people just die in fatigue. And the amount of buffs that they got in total here was 440 buffs at least. So that was the first submission, 440, which is already pretty damn strong. And not how I think people would do it. I think people would use like mana orb or a bunch of blueberries and like spam buffs or but I guess gems was the way, because then Lemur King came back and he one-upped himself. Same strat again, same thing, but this time he was able to improve it to, well, a bigger number, which was 568. So he improved himself. Other people joined the category. Then we had Upson with a, well, similar build, I think. Again, just gem spam was how you were gonna take this one. Way more like full backpack with yellow gems. Again, Gooberts for healing. Poison group was interesting. Double bird as well. I guess poison to convert regen. So poison group because and green gems because they want to inflict poison and then convert it into regen so they can go deeper in fatigue, I think. Regen is also a buff, I guess. Those are the easiest way to, or seemed like the easiest ways to get buffs without killing your opponent. So you can see it scaling, like just firing up even at like 0.8 speed, but it goes so fast. And they're facing a fatigue reaper, almost 100 ticks in fatigue, but they had crowns as well, triggering pretty late. And eventually they died. They had 400 regen, still died to fatigue damage. And this ended up being, well, the limit for now. This is a total of 873 buffs inflicted on themselves. And then there was one more improvement, which blew this out of the water again, was massive, and it's again Upson. Same person, one up themselves, similar board, but this time they went for like this armor package, because more buffs, if you go deeper in fatigue, you're able to apply more, right? So that is exactly what they thought. They just went for a bunch of gems, double bird, armor gain, and they were lucky to face another fatigue board, again with the vamp armor, moon shield stuff, which was what most people were spamming. And therefore, this was able to go on pretty long. All of the buffs are able to just stack and, dude, what the fuck? This actually went so much longer. This is almost just a fatigue game, like for that category. Still have thousands of armor. They did not seem to keep up with it. Dude, how long is this? This went to over 200 ticks in fatigue as well? What the fuck? This fight went 55 seconds. This almost just won the marathon as well, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, you can see the buffs here. A lot of them are covered, but it ended up being over 1,000 buffs. 1,251 according to Upson. So they blew this out of the water. This is also the category though that they did choose not to win, because Upson won multiple categories. You can only win 3. So that means that Lemurkin won this category, even though Upson one-upped himself once and has like 2 higher records. Lemurkin was the only other one that got like 500 plus, so this category went to him. Next up was Size Matters. This is the first place to win survival with 4 great swords. Honestly, I thought this was gonna be hard. I feel like getting 4 great swords is so expensive, it's not super easy, and even winning with it in survival, you know, you gotta have a good setup for it. Turns out there were really fast submissions. Sadly, they were not recorded, so we had Quardak and Kurlandman, yes, both having a submission, but it wasn't fully recorded, so I couldn't count them, because I have to draw the line somewhere to keep it, you know, fair for everyone. I cannot really do favors. Yeah, that was super fast. And then within an hour, we also got this submission by Maltesa, who was the first. But yeah, so this was the first submission, winning with 4 greatsword. They still had 4 lives left as well. Greatsword actually just good. So this was really fast. I thought this would take longer, honestly. But now I know for next time that you guys are crazy and actually good at the game. So I would have to make things more difficult, or just maybe see who can win with the most amount of greatswords. Right? But yeah, I wanted one speed category at least, like one category where people have to be fast and see, because I think it's a skill as well. So yeah, they won with 4 great swords. pretty easily, I would say. Next up, we have Goobert Paradise. This is whoever can win with as many Gooberts as possible on the board in the backpack. This is the first one that we got, which was Felix with 8 Gooberts. And they went with a bunch of Vamp. This is somehow 5 Vampiric Gooberts, double Hungry Blade, and 3 more Gooberts. I think it was a very interesting take on it, because you can, I don't know. I was always wondering what Gooberts are people going to take. Are they going to take normal Gooberts? What setup do you play with it? So this was the first submission. I liked it. But of course, people are going to improve this, because then we had Upson, who played just a broken strat with 10 Gooberts. So here we have 10 Gooberts in backpack, and they just played Dark Saber, Poison, Death Side. So cheat a bit. Yeah, it's just a strong backpack, and then try to use as little space as possible to win. Fill the rest with Gooberts. They had another Goobert that they could not play. Maybe you could win if you put the Goobert there. I don't know, but yeah, if they didn't win the fights, it didn't count, so they had to play safe. Which they did, because this is still pretty broken. But that was a 10 Goobert win. This also what won the category, because it seems really hard to beat. But I thought this was funny as well. Silver Tusk here was trying. He had 11 Gooberts, but he couldn't close it out. He just had the Gooberts. And I just thought this was funny. Next up, we have Breaking the Sound Barrier. Now, this category as well is super active. A lot of people competing for it, and a lot of math. People were constantly like thinking of new strats. This is, I think, the category that evolved the most over time, that people constantly like had different ideas on. And yeah, a lot of nerdy chat about like how the speed, what the speed limit is and how to reach it and shit like that. But basically, it all started with this. The Airbender was using Holy Spear, because Holy Spear with mana speeds up 100%, right? So they were just speeding it up with Bird, Gloves, Falcon Blade, and then used mana to eventually make it like go sicko mode. I'm gonna speed up until that happens, which is right here. And it's going 0.36 seconds, but eventually goes down to 0.35 because of the bird. So the record was 0.35 seconds, the first record in this category. Then we had Portal Slayer, who came in and also used Holy Spear. So the strat was still considered the best. We see way more gloves here, way more birds. Other than that, very similar. So just waiting on the spear to trigger. And this record was 0.3 seconds. Yeah, 0.3 seconds was the record, which is already incredibly fast on a single item. Then we had an improvement again by Sparky, who, well, again, still went Holy Spear. He just had way more Vamp Gloves. Only single bird, but that was good enough. Once the spear triggers here, it went 0.29 seconds. So just small improvements. People are one-upping each other. But people are still doing the same strat. People are all still doing Holy Spear with mana. And then things evolved. Then we had Amutek, who decided to play Crossblades with it. Crossblades to speed up the spear even more. And then we had people trying to experiment with Crossblades for a bit. We had Amutek, again, with a different setup now. Crossblades and Villain Sword. Because people theorized that Villain Sword can get a faster cooldown than Spear. So they had Platinum Custom Card and just fishing for Villain Sword, which that's some insane dedication. Just to get a single weapon, to get maybe sometimes faster trigger speed. And triple bird with it, Vamp Gloves. They even had, well, people are now playing Struggles, because Struggles in Fatigue gives bonus speed as well, 100% bonus speed. So you have the bonus speed from Crossblades, from Mr. Struggles, from the birds, from everything, and the fastest weapon in the game pretty much, right? The one that you can improve the most on, with a yellow gem on it. So really trying to optimize this. You gotta make sure you don't kill your opponent, but you start honking so much anyway that that's not too much of a worry. And the cooldown here, what was it? I think they're about to show, but it went up to 0.26 seconds. So this is, again, a small improvement. This is 0.03 second improvement. But it didn't stop here. There's still a lot of improvements because people were still figuring shit out. Like, for example, Mr. Clade here, who just ran raw Crossblades. Not even trying to fish for like a weapon to speed up, or not even going for Villain Sword. Raw Crossblades, because Crossblade speeds itself up. Every time Crossblade hits, it goes slightly faster. So it kind of scales exponentially as well. So a bunch of yellow gems on it, then some birds, a bunch of Vamp Gloves, and again, Struggles, which will, in Fatigue, speed up the Crossblades. Kind of big brain, and it looks really funny, because you start seeing it speed up, it eventually goes so fast, it just stims out the entire time. And it doesn't do shit, but when it attacks, it looks very funny, even at like 1x speed. I'm gonna speed up a little bit. It doesn't matter if you win or lose the fight in this category, you just need to get the fastest cooldown. This went up to 0.24, so again, small improvements, but in this category, it is about small improvements. You can't really expect big jumps because of the limit testing people are doing. And then there's still 2 more improvements. We had Vicky, who came in, also just ran raw crossblades. So this seemed to be like the common consensus. They have 5 birds with it though, way more birds. Again, struggles, bunch of gloves, but now also gems are added. Because again, the deeper you go in fatigue, the faster your weapon goes. So people need survival for fatigue. So again, they're stacking poison and playing green gems to gain a bunch of regen. So you live longer in fatigue. And yellow gems for the heat, I suppose. Even though you won't have stamina, right? So I don't actually know if it works like that. But I guess they were just making yellow gems to put on the weapon. And they were lucky to face a fatigue board as well. So this board doesn't kill them right away. This board just wants to live. So this fight could actually go as long as you can last in fatigue. And eventually they just died to fatigue. Cooldown went up to 0.22 seconds. So again, small improvement. Now there was one more improvement. We've been talking about small improvements, right? This is a big improvement. So even though people are like shaving off like milliseconds right now we got a really big improvement to close out this category, which is by Lemurkin with a completely different strategy again. No more crossblades, no more holy spear, no villain sword. No, I don't know if you guys can guess this one because I would definitely never guessed. It's mana first. It's a mana first. So you see a bunch of yellow gems again for heat. Because mana first doesn't use that much stamina, so you get a bunch of stamina. You stack heat because gems apparently are the most OP thing ever. They have burst, you again just, you know, have survivability. We'll see how this performs, but we're facing kind of a strong board. It's not even a fatigue setup that they're facing here. They're facing Greatsword Belladonna. I don't know what it is, with a platinum customer card. But yeah, you can see the heat scaling out of control. So that was theoretically, I guess, a better way than scaling the weapons how people did it before. The mana first eventually, as we'll see at the end. Yeah, look, it just permanently... Wait, this actually looks so funny. It just permanently activated, if you look at it. It doesn't even back down again. It just permanently keeps hitting. But it also deals, like, no damage. So, you have full stamina the entire time. It's perma-activated. The cooldown is still just going less and less. Eventually, yeah, it just goes deep in fatigue. And it goes up to 0.16. Yeah, I think you saw it for a frame, but 0.16. There it is. And 0.16, actually a really big improvement. This is where the category ended. And people are capping the speed limits. People are just talking about what theoretically could be more, how to do this even faster. But this is where it ended, so that's the winner of this one. Then we had Night at the Bar. This is a pretty fast beaten category as well. I did not expect this, but basically who can trigger the most amount of potions in a combat and win that combat wins. So you gotta trigger all of the potions for them to count and win the combat. First submission was Mandy. So we have Mandy here, who triggered 22 potions. So you see the entire full backpack of potions. All of them triggered, and then they played Darksaber with it and the dagger to just kill them as a win con. So we were at 22 very early. And then there was one more improvement, and there's only one more improvement because this already capped out the category. This was already the maximum amount of potions you could have, which was surprisingly fast, and I did not think it was that easy. But yeah, it's a full backpack except for one slot because that's not possible. I like this the symmetry as well. It just looks so pretty, you know. But yeah, all of these triggered. Well, I'll show you. It actually looks very funny. So all of these triggered. Then you saw the demonic flask to trigger, which do eventually once they drop low. It inflicts 55 poison. You're just hoping your opponent is not too strong. You have a bunch of armor as well to survive anyway. Once these trigger, you triggered all of them, which was a total of 31 potions. Apparently 31 is the limit. So this won the Night at the Bar category. And those were all 10 categories. So those were all 10 of them. That's the progression between them, how people try to one-up each other, how it evolved. And yeah, a lot of them got maxed out. A lot of them people were like grinding for. Some of them were done faster than others. But I think it was fun. I think we definitely... I learned a lot from this, right? About the game and like how to min-max things. So the winners were, for 2 Toxic, it was Upson. 1 Punch, it was Quardek. For the speedrun, it was Soskiosk. For the marathon, it was Dan Super. For Frankenstein, it was Lemurkin. For getting those gains, it was Lemurkin. Size Matters, it was Maltesa. For Goobit Paradise, it was Upson. Sound Barrier, Lemurkin. And Night at the Bar, Upson. So Upson won 3 of them. Actually won 4. So you had to sacrifice 1 of them. Lemurkin won 3 of them. Yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was fun. A lot more work than I expected, but hey, I hope it was good content as well.